Good question, Olivia. The webinar is going to be 1 hour precisely. The content that I deliver will be about 45 minutes. And you'll get a ton in that 45 minutes. If this is your first webinar, this is not how most webinars go. I'd estimate that you probably get 10 or 15 resources in a great webinar. I'm going to give you 119. So I'll qualify that in a few minutes. But all that in 45 minutes, and then we'll do some Q&A where you can ask any questions about your college essay or the college application process you like. And this will be recorded, and it'll be available for you to download and check out later. So if you need to hop off, why, no worries. It's all good. Sophia, you should see the title of a PowerPoint slide with a black background. Actually, let me just... Hi, what's up? I'm Ethan. I'm going to take these off because they're, I don't know, they're glaring. Well, I was like, what's that word? Oh, right, glaring. Thanks, Esther. I'm excited too. We're going to start in just 1 minute. We're just waiting for, in case folks show up late. The first part is important just for setting context. And then I'll disappear again so you can see my PowerPoint because I'm getting ready to start. Bye. All right. So let's get started. I'll turn off the music here. And I'm grateful that you're here. I'm celebrating your presence. I mean, you could be anywhere right now, but you're here listening to this webinar on college essays. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your time and for your attention. And I hope to honor it with some of the resources that I'll share. Some of the, well, actually, we did this check-in already. What are you celebrating? But that's something that we checked in with at the beginning here. If you've got some more celebrations, feel free to type them in the chat box. We've got Devin, my brother's on hand. He'll be answering questions. And Megan is on hand from CollegeXpress. She'll be answering questions potentially. And let's do this. What is CollegeXpress celebrating? Well, and this is another way of thinking about this, is like 5 reasons that I love CollegeXpress. So just to give them some love a minute, you may or may not know this. You may know this already, but CollegeXpress has helped so many students, like millions, finding colleges, finding scholarships that fit them. And, not just based on test scores and GPA, but, finding really a true fit. Lots of advice, tons of great blog posts from really well-known and well-informed people. It's totally free, which I'm a huge fan of. All my resources on my website are free or pay what you can. So we're really aligned there. And when you join CollegeXpress, you get instant entry into their scholarship contest for $10,000. But perhaps my favorite thing is the lists that they offer. And I just want to spend 1 minute talking to you about this because you may know about this, but you may not know about this. So I'm going to switch. Share this with you really quick. Switching the screen out. So if you see blackness, that's okay, or that's what you should see. Here's my other screen. Okay, turning the screen share back on. Here, check this out. So when you go to the CollegeXpress, enter that scholarship contest by just entering your basic info right there. And then once you get in, check out this, lists and rankings. Again, you may not know about this. So if you click start exploring the lists now, you can find lists like when you're trying to figure out which college to go to for everything from colleges that are strong in psychology to colleges with great music programs, colleges that are far from major cities. Let me give you an example. When you click on a list like colleges with fine music programs, you'll get a huge, huge list of schools. And you can click on any of these. Let's click on Amherst for a second. When you click on the school, you'll get a ton of information about the school, like how selective it is, how many students are there, what the ratio of male to female students. And then here's one of my favorite parts. Click on lists and rankings once you get into the school. And you can just go here to click that. And you'll find other things that school is great for. So maybe you're like colleges in or near Boston. That would be cool too. You can click that and then find other schools. It's an endless, beautiful wormhole. No, wormhole's not the word I'm looking for. Rabbit hole? That's it, rabbit hole. Or you can type in here, I'm looking for schools that are great in architecture, and type it in, and voila. These lists are great. How great are these lists? I'll send you a resource, or I'll let you know where you can get a resource at the end that contextualizes where these lists came from. They're from a guy named Stephen Antonoff, who is like the college buff. I'm just pulling my screen away. These lists, and has spent a ton of time developing and you checking them out. At the end of the webinar, stay to the end and I'll let you know how you can get a link to this presentation and recording of the webinar. I'll share with you 5 resources that, thanks to CollegeXpress, will save you $3,480 precisely. And I'll share with you a link where you can get a free guide to writing your personal statement. Really, really, as Shrek said. All right, who am I? Ethan Sawyer. This is the guy in the funny glasses biting his finger. I went to Northwestern University, studied performance studies. I got an MFA in acting at UC Irvine. Got a couple degrees in counseling, one in therapeutic counseling and one in college counseling. I've spent and I also happen to collect certifications. I get certified in things. So, one of those is like Myers-Briggs. I'm an ENFJ, if that means anything to you. Probably an ENFP, really. And I got certified in hypnotherapy earlier this year. So that's like a whole separate story. Don't worry, you will not be hypnotized on this webinar, I don't think. And I've spent more than 10 years teaching writing. I'd say really I'm a writing teacher. And I'm the college essay guy, because when I looked in 2011 for the URL college essay guy, no one else had claimed it. So I was like, that could be me. And now that is me. If you've never met me or never heard of me, I've got this free guide to writing your personal statement, which I'll give you access to at the end. A free stuff page that's huge, and I'll share with you more about later. Things like, how to write your University of California prompts. That's a separate application than the Common App. I've got a resource for that. Tons of blog posts, everything from, what are 4 qualities of an amazing essay to do college interviews really matter. I've also got a Matchlighter scholarship, which is 4 hours of free one-on-one college essay help to any student who's low income and needs some extra help. And the people who are doing this are trained counselors. I've got an army of 80 counselors who are standing by, and I don't have enough students right now. So one of my hopes is that you will hear this and you'll go, hey, I'm a low income student. I'd really love some college essay support. And you'll check out this link on the site and you'll apply. It's really easy to apply. Or if you're a counselor, listen to this and you're like, hey, I'd love to volunteer. You can find out how to apply there. I've spent more than 10 years thinking about this. I wrote a book on it. It's the #1 book on Amazon for college essays, I'm proud to say. And I've got a podcast where I'm interviewing really well-known people in the college admissions world. And you can get everything from, how to advocate for undocumented students, or if you're an undocumented student, how to apply to college, to how to lead a life-changing college essay workshop, or more recently, how to debunk the myth of the starving artist from Laura Young, who's an admissions officer at UCLA. So lots of great stuff on there. It's all free, of course. And what I'm celebrating, some things I'm celebrating this year, I've, spent a lot of time on social media, promoting free resources. Got 15 million social media impressions. I've got this private counselor Facebook group. So if you're a counselor, if you search College Essay Forum for counselors on Facebook, there's a 600 member group. We'd love to have you there. We geek out on college essays. Sorry, students, you can't really join that. It probably wouldn't be that interesting to you anyway. I've done a couple hundred of these workshops, not just this year, but in all time. And it's been I've got a lot of blog views too. This is my daughter. This is also what I'm celebrating. My daughter, Zola. She's amazing. Usually if we're live and in person, this kind of prompts some awes from the crowd, which is why I do it. Oh, and this is when she's had too much to drink. This is what she looks like. I'm also celebrating buffets, and this is the session. So my favorite buffet is the Bellagio buffet. I love buffets because I feel like I wasn't raised with a lot of money, so whenever we'd get to a buffet, I would be super excited. And I feel like the Bellagio is exceptional. If you've ever been there, if you've never been, I'm sorry, but if you have, you've seen the ridiculous number of, amount of seafood. There's this amazing dessert cart, some meat. I went there as a vegetarian, so I didn't enjoy the meat, but there is meat. I'll explain why. I'm telling you this in a second. Did I mention the desserts? I think I did. Today, I'm sharing with you 124 college essay resources. So actually, sorry, it's 119. Only 119 college essay resources in the next 35 minutes. And there's something that Lola May once said, that there are three things to remember when teaching. Know your stuff, know whom you're stuffing, and then stuff them elegantly. So be careful. I mean, really, I'm going to say this is a buffet, so you can feel free to graze and you don't feel like you have to devour each one of these resources. You can just kind of take what's interesting, and I'll share with you resources where you can find out more if you want to go back for seconds. Just be careful you don't end up like this guy, who actually showed up on a Google search when I Googled Bellagio buffet. And I thought, yep, that's about right. All right. So here are some basic questions that I get. Number one, how long does my essay need to be? Well, for the main essay, which we're going to be talking about today, it's 650 words. That's the current Common App limit, which is about a page. How many essays do I need to write? That's when things get complicated. So beyond that one essay, which will go for, it's also called your personal statement, which will go for many of the private schools you apply to, there are several supplements required by certain schools. So you can go into the Common App and find out, for example, that Stanford requires like 5 more essays, or you might find out that Michigan requires 2 more essays. So each school has its own supplements, and you can find those either going to the Common App or going to the individual school. Now, if you go to UCLA's website, they have a different application, and they require 4 what they call personal insight questions. So it depends on the school. But I was working with a student earlier today, and she's like, oh my gosh, I have like 50 essays to write. And once we finished our session, I helped her see that no, actually, you can double and triple a lot of the prompts. In other words, you can basically choose 4 to 6 main topics and then reuse those essays. So how many essays you need to write? Maybe somewhere between 4 and 50, depending on how strategic you are. Which matters more, the story or the writing ability? Now, I've had different admissions officers tell me different things. Some feel like just it's about having a great story. Some feel like, no, we really need to see that you can write well. I think most admissions officers would like to see both. So I would say both. How much do the essays matter? I get this question a lot. And it's hard to say like a specific percentage, and it's going to vary from school to school. But in general, I'd say your essays matter when it comes to differentiating between you and another student with your similar academic profile. In other words, an extracurricular profile. So let's say you just imagine, your GPA, your test scores up against another student with a similar GPA and test scores. And let's say some similar extracurriculars. You've got 2 sports, they've got 2 sports. You've got a community service, they've got a community service. Well, how do we tell the difference between these 2 students? That's when I think the personal statement and the other supplemental essays really start to matter. I also think that certain schools, ask for a why us essay. That's a supplement that's pretty popular. That essay sometimes really matters, and it matters a different amount for different schools. So not to get too far into the weeds on this, but I have a podcast episode on something called demonstrated interest. And what that means is some schools really care how much you demonstrate your interest for the school, and some schools less so. And on that podcast, I talk about that. But in short, the essays can make the difference in some cases. That's my qualified answer to that. If your grades are bad, can you get into Harvard with a great essay? Nope. Next question. All right. These are the 5 questions that are going to offer the framework for the session today. First, how do I find a topic? I'm going to give you like 6 resources for doing that. How do I structure my essay? I'll share some on that. I'll show you what a great essay looks like, and I'll give you a little brief analysis. I'll share with you a simple resource and exercise for outlining your essay, and 2 tips for bringing your essay to life, aka making it not boring. I know that sounds like a lot, but like I said, if you need to take a break, you need to get some water, go to the bathroom, step away, it's totally cool. But we're going to keep plugging along. Here goes. What do I write about? How do we find a topic? Well, I got this exercise called the Essence Objects exercise that I'm not going to do with you now. I'm just going to tell you about it. And if you want, you can just Google it and find it. Just Google the phrase Essence Objects exercise. Now, the way this works is this. I want you to imagine a box. And in this box is a set of essence objects. Now, what is an essence object? One of the essence objects of mine is on my wrist. It's this green and blue friendship bracelet. And it's frayed a little bit at the edges, and it's a little bit dirty because I wear it every day. Why is it meaningful to me? Because my wife gave it to me. And my wife is my best friend, y'all. I'm really proud to say that. And what's cool about this friendship bracelet is that it wears off every 9 or 10 months. So what happens is she has to like basically retie. That's her cue. When it falls off, I tell her, hey, it fell off. And she creates a new friendship bracelet and ties it on. So there's this moment like each year where we like remake our friendship, which I think is so cool. So again, simple object, friendship bracelet, deeper meaning. My connection with my life partner. It's so cool, guys. I'll just say that, like, it's really nice to have best friends, and it's even cooler when you get to marry her, because it's not plural. Anyway, so that's one of my essence objects. Another one would be barbecue sauce, because I love barbecue sauce, and I'm not even picky. I'll eat like Chick-fil-A barbecue sauce. It reminds me of my grandma too, who cooked with barbecue sauce. She's from the South. So there's a family connection. You get the idea. So and if you listen to the exercise, it's like a 12-minute exercise. You'll start to develop a lot and start to see a lot of different sides of yourself. Each one, there's a story behind it. Another exercise I love is called the values exercise, which again, you can just Google the phrase values exercise and you should find it. It involves looking at this list of values and choosing your top 10. And I encourage students to do this like in 2 minutes. And there's a little video that I've got there where you can basically, it like kind of times you down. And then I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I find values to be extremely important when it comes to communicating who you are in a personal statement. If you've only got 650 words, I should, by the end, understand what some of your core values are. And this is a great way to begin thinking about some of those. Because how often do people ask you that? Probably not often. My favorite prompt is one that came from the University of California from a couple years ago. They've changed their prompts since, but it used to ask, describe the world you come from and tell us how your world has shaped your dreams and aspirations. Now, the first exercise that I shared with you, the essence objects exercise, is a great way of getting into your world, describing the world you come from. And the values, I think, are a great way for you to begin thinking about what your dreams and aspirations are. Now, that sounds a little abstract. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to be a doctor, right? That's my dream, is to be a doctor. Some people think of their career as the end. Like, when I get to be a doctor, then I'm done. But that's not right. I think your career is not the end, but the means by which you experience and express your values. So consider that doctors, I'm going to go back to this values list for a second, really are resourceful. They value challenge, maybe adventure, adaptability. If these are some of your core values, why being a doctor might make sense for you. So I'll get into this a little bit later, but by focusing on your values, that can be a great way to express what your dreams and aspirations are. Now, do you have to end with your career? You don't, certainly, in your personal statement. But I find that if you answer this question, describe the world you come from and tell us how it's shaped your dreams and aspirations, that's going to be a pretty great personal statement. And this year, the Common App, one of the prompts is topic of your choice. Well, there was this tell us your story prompt from last year, but I tell students, answer this question. I think it's a really great one. Here are 5 ways to find your topic. I mentioned the first 2. The third one is this 21 details exercise, which again, you can just Google. It involves coming up with 21 random facts about yourself. One of mine would be, for example, that I went to 13 schools. That's a random fact about me. Might lead to something interesting in an essay or one of the supplements. What else? Oh, I didn't like to, this is kind of a random one, but I didn't like to use the toothpaste after my sister because I thought she had germs when I was growing up, so I would wipe off the toothpaste. I was something of a germaphobe. I don't think I'm that now. Another one would be, I broke my kneecap when I was in 10th grade and lost the whole basketball season. And it was devastating, but then I turned and did more theater. So that could lead to an interesting story. Another exercise is called the Everything I Want Colleges to Know About Me exercise, which involves just taking a blank sheet of paper and literally making a list of everything you want colleges to know. You can do this with your parents, go to the coffee shop for an hour and have fun with it. Do it with your friends. There are 2 other resources that I use with all my students. U-Science is one, which is beautiful and brilliant. It's an interest and aptitudes assessment that takes about 90 minutes, but you'll learn so much about yourself and potential careers. And then Do What You Are, offered through Human eSources. Also, it's the name of a book that you can get on Amazon for like $1, will help you, based on your personality type, your Myers-Briggs, explore potential careers. I highly recommend it. It changed the way that I thought about my work. Another question I really love is this my deepest story? And once you've decided on your topic, and you may or may not have at this point, not from these resources, but just in thinking about your college essay, ask yourself, is this my deepest story? Or once you've finished your draft, read it out loud to someone and then have them ask you that question. A good litmus test is, is the story as you read it aloud coming from your head? Does it sound like it's coming from an intellectual place or more from your heart or from your gut? I think it should be coming from a deeper place. And this question is a good test. Sometimes students, it's hard to explain, but they'll just know. I'll ask a student, is this your deepest story? And they'll be like, yes. And I'll be like, boom, we got it. Sometimes they'll be like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, let's see if this could be, or if we could find something else. And then there's this list of 100 brave and interesting questions. If you just Google it, it's a list of questions that I put together that basically was based on my friend wanting to meet people at parties. So it used to be called Questions to Ask Strangers at Parties because he was trying to make friends. And I thought that he didn't have very good questions, but it turned into a great resource for coming up with a personal statement topic. So, second question, how do I structure my essay? So we're shifting now from content, what do I write about, to how do I write it? As I mentioned, my favorite prompt, describe the world you come from. When I was working with students on this a few years ago, I realized that a lot of them had been through challenges. And just, on this call, identify for yourself, have you been through challenges or not? You can answer that question for yourself, whether you're a parent, counselor, or student. And then dreams and aspirations. If we were sitting together, I'd ask you, do you have a sense of what your dream and aspiration is? You may say yes or no. Just answer for that for yourself. And in answering these two questions, here's what we come up with. 4 types of essays. And I've arbitrarily labeled these A, B, C, and D. In the type A category, we've got students who have faced challenges and know what they want to study. Or we have type B, student hasn't faced challenges, but does know what he or she wants to study. And notice I'm kind of using this aspirations thing, connecting it to study. Really, I'm just trying to sort of strike a chord, just get you to think about your future. Some students have a really clear sense of what that looks like, and some not so much. We've got students who have faced challenges, but don't know what they want to study. And in the D category, students who've not faced challenges and don't know what they want to study. So, in terms of how to structure your essay, I'm going to talk about 2 different types of structure. There's narrative structure, which is basically telling a story in which the events are linked in a cause and effect relationship. So I'll explain more about what that means in just a second, and I'll give you an example essay. And then montage structure, the events aren't linked by cause and effect, they're linked thematically. I'll explain more in just a second. The elements of narrative structure, and this is the hero's journey, if you are familiar with Joseph Campbell and the monomyth. It's also, if you attended USC for screenwriting school, you would have seen this. But this is basically how every film is structured. And I think, stories for years and years. Or Joseph Campbell would put forward that. The status quo is like, here's how our story begins. It was just another sunny day in Los Angeles when all of a sudden, boom, something happens, the inciting incident. And in Pixar films, it's usually between minutes 13 and 15. Seriously. Raising of the stakes lets us know why that inciting incident was so important. It gets to become a bigger and bigger deal until the main character has to make a choice. And, there's probably many choices, but the biggest choice comes in the moment of truth. And the result of that choice leads to a new status quo. So that's why at the beginning of Finding Nemo, Dad is sending Nemo off to school and he's like, wait. He's all freaking out. By the end, when Nemo goes off to school, he says, have an adventure. And we see that he's truly changed. Let's give you an example essay. This is a student who happened to have faced challenges and who knew what she wanted to study. And see if you can spot these elements. Let me just refresh. Status quo sets up our world. This is what's happening. Inciting incident. Oftentimes the inciting incident is the worst thing that could happen to the main character. See if you can spot that in the essay. Raising of the stakes, things become more and more important. We start to understand why this thing is a big deal, whatever the thing is, whatever the circumstance is. Moment of truth, and then new status quo. Is the character by the end clearly different from when the character started? Let's take a look. The clock was remarkably slow as I sat, legs tightly crossed, squirming at my desk. Just raise your hand, my mind pleaded. Ask. But despite my urgent need to visit the restroom, I remained seated, begging time to move faster. You see, I was that type of kid to eat French fries dry because I couldn't confront the McDonald's cashier for some Heinz packets. Notice, by the way, that's an essence object. Heinz packets. It's this object that represents a deeper fear that she has, right? A fear of speaking out. That's the power of an essence object, is that there's oftentimes a story or something deeper connected to it. And T.S. Eliot once said, the only way to express emotion in art is through an objective correlative, an object that we correlate different emotions, experiences to. I was also the type to sit crying in front of school, she continues, instead of asking the office if it could check on my late ride. Essentially, I chose to struggle through a problem if the solution involved speaking out against it. Okay, status quo. What's her problem? It's kind of obvious, but I'll say it. She's shy. But she doesn't just say, I was shy. She doesn't just because if she just said that, then we just gotta have to take her word for it, right? She actually gives us some examples. She gives us a quick little montage of images that help us to see, oh, she was shy. Next paragraph. My diffidence was frustrating. My parents relied on me, the only one able to speak English, to guide them. Raising of the stakes. So now, not only is it important that she gets over her shyness, but her parents, it's important to them, and always anticipated the best from me. So this engages us in a deeper level because now we're like, oh, we're rooting for her a little more. However, as calls for help grew, the more defunct I became. I felt that every move I made, it was a gamble between success and failure. For me, the fear of failure and disappointment far outweighed the possibility of triumph. So I took no action and chose to silently suffer under pressure. Near meltdown, I knew something needed to be done. So you can hear the raising of the stakes, even in the language she's using, silently suffer under pressure. It's getting real, y'all. Near meltdown, I knew something needed to be done. Mustering up the little courage I had, I sought ways to break out of my shell. Without luck. Recreational art classes ended in 3 boring months. I gave up self-defense after embarrassing myself in class. After-school band, library volunteering, and book clubs ended similarly. Continued effort yielded nothing. Now let's pause right there, because would you think that you'd want to reveal all your failures to the college? Like if I were to ask you, what 3 to 5 things would you want the college to know about you? Like, I don't imagine you'd say like, I really want them to know that I'm a quitter. Like if there was like a big takeaway, I'd want them to know that like when I start things, I don't finish. That's in some sense what she's saying here. But in a different context, and in this context, these experiences and quitting these different clubs actually demonstrate a positive quality, right? Hard work, persistence, creativity, right? She's trying something. So she's trying all this stuff. She's failing. What does that do? It raises the stakes even further. And it gets us to feel like, man, she's tried everything. We're now well prepared for the inciting incident. Disillusioned and wrung dry of ideas, I followed my mom's advice and joined a debate club. Okay, worst idea ever, right? For somebody who's too shy to ask to go pee, remember the beginning? Why would you join a debate club? As expected, she writes, the club only reaffirmed my self-doubt. Eye contact? Greater volume? No thanks. Now she's doing what every hero does, right? When they're called to adventure, resisting the call to action, the call to adventure. But soon, transition, the club moved on from how to make a speech lessons to the exploration of argumentation. We were taught to speak a language of persuasion, listen to how it changes, and play the game of debate. Notice she calls it a game. Eventually, I fell in love with it all. By high school, I joined the school debate team, began socializing, and was even elected to head several clubs. I developed critical and analytical thinking skills and learned how to think and speak spontaneously. Hold the phone, y'all. This is like the most important paragraph, I think, of the essay. Because look how many core values and skills, if you want to quote Liam Neeson, look at this particular set of skills. There are a lot of pop references on this webinar. How many skills do you count there? Notice. Socializing. So, okay, she's getting better with people. Leadership. Right? Critical and analytical thinking. And then thinking and speaking spontaneously. All of these skills which will serve her in what potential career? You could name lawyer, politician, but couldn't you also name teacher or chef or physical therapist? Right? So the point here is that these values, these skills are going to be so elastic. I like to use that word, elastic, because they're going to be stretchy enough to really support you in any career. That's why I think it's so important to make sure that by the end of your essay, whether you state it explicitly like she does, or it's implied but very clear, they should be able to name your core values or your particular set of skills. Let's see where this goes. I became proud and confident. Moreover, I became eager to play my role in the family, and family relations strengthened. In fact, nowadays, my parents are interested in my school's newest gossip. Yay! Happy ending with mom and dad. We tie that little thread up. 4 years of debate, she writes, and now I'm the kid up at the whiteboard, the kid leading discussions, and the kid standing up for her beliefs. So there's a sweet moment there. And you might have noticed, or you might not have noticed, that this is the new status quo. So think about who she was. The first snapshot, what do you remember? The kid that's too shy to ask for ketchup, too shy to go to the bathroom, getting left behind, can't ask for someone to call for her late ride. But look who she is now, the kid at the whiteboard. So one of the ways to show your growth is to show at the beginning, here's who I was, snapshot, right? Here's who I've become, snapshot. It's like a before and after shot, like those, those diet images you see on Facebook or whatever. This guy got jacked, right? So what? That's the question that that last paragraphs I think should answer. And I think it's a great question to answer throughout your essay, by the way. More importantly, she writes, I now confront issues instead of avoiding them. It's exciting to discover solutions to problems that affect others, as I was able to do as part of the first place team for the 2010 United Nations Global Debates Program on Climate Change and Poverty. Wow, cool. Okay, so this is evidence that she's actually, achieved her goal, like finding her voice. She's done it. What's cool, by the way, is that it's a kind of brag that she works in. And if you want a tip about how to work a brag in without seeming like you're showing off, connect it to a value. You'll look back at that values list and see that this is connected to the value of, confidence or finding her voice. This proves it. I take a natural interest in global issues, she writes, and plan to become a foreign affairs analyst or diplomat, notice how specific, by studying international affairs with a focus on national identity. If you do happen to have a career in mind, I encourage you to do some research. I'll share a resource in a minute that you can use to do that. But the reason I think getting really specific with a focus on national identity is that I think it can help you write the end of your essay. Notice her transition here. In particular, I'm interested in the North-South Korean tension. What irreconcilable differences have prompted a civilization to separate? Policy implications remain vague and sovereignty theories have their limits. How do we determine what compromises are to be made? And on a personal level, why did my grandfather have to flee from his destroyed North Korean hometown? And why does it matter? Smart questions, y'all. One of the ways to show your intelligence is not necessarily through smart statements, but through smart questions that will engage you in college and beyond. Let us know what you want to wrestle with. Last paragraph. I see a reflection of myself in the divide at the 38th parallel. So check out this metaphor. She's saying the North-South Korea dividing line. She's like, that's me. Because I see one part isolating itself in defense to outside threats, and another part coming out to face the world as one of the fastest developing nations. Just as my shy persona before debate and extroverted character after debate are both part of who I am, the Korean civilization is also one. And just as my parents expect much from me, the first in my family to attend college, ding, 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 I have grand expectations for this field of study. If you're the first in your family to attend college, stand up. It can't hurt to put it in your essay, because I'm like, oh, my heart opens up when I read that. It's so cool, and I really feel proud of her. So that's a great essay. How is it structured? Pretty simple. I was shy. I needed to get over it, because not just for my sake, for my parents. So I joined this debate club. Some great stuff happens. 4 years of debate. Now I'm the kid at the whiteboard. Okay. Another structure you can use, which is different from this. Now, what I mentioned about this is that these events are all causally linked, not casually, causally. So one thing leads to another. I was shy, joined debate, became less shy. Boom, boom, boom. Another way to do this is to do those exercises that I mentioned, the brainstorming exercises, and just to make up a big list of all the things that you want colleges to know about you. And then another way to connect all that stuff is through what I call the montage structure. So here's another essay. It's called the endodontics essay, which again, you can Google. But this student starts off saying he's always been curious and he likes working with his hands and he's obsessed with details. Now we're wondering, what does this all have to do with each other? I'm a math geek. I love sharing my knowledge with others. All these qualities will serve me well in my career as not an engineer, but spoiler alert, a dentist. And he explains why at the end. It's a really good essay. So in terms of how to connect all the moments, you just need something that connects all of your stuff. All of the stuff that you want to share with the college. And in this case, one of the ways to do that is by saying, here's a career that I'm interested in. But it's not the only way. I'll get to some other ways in just a second. Just to underscore this part on structure, either you're going to making causal connections where one thing leads to another in a narrative structure, or thematic connections. Here's all this random stuff and they all connect with this one common thread or theme. I think a great essay should either go deep, talking about a set of experiences or one experience that fundamentally changed your life. And that's going to rely on that insight at the end. In other words, how did it change your life? Or go wide. Keep it a little bit lighter, a little more variety. Talk about a lot of different parts of yourself. And I don't have time on this webinar to analyze that, but I'll share a resource where you can find out more about how to use that montage structure. That's what I think will help you go wide. Narrative structure can help you go deep. Third, how do I outline my essay? Remember Goonies? Some of you may be too young for Goonies, but we decide on the big chunks. This is Chunk from Goonies. Or, as Aristotle once said, a great story's got to have a beginning, middle, and an end. But, and a lot of people don't know that he added this, it was like not necessarily in that order. So the middle could come first. Define what your big chunks are. For example, the with debate essay. I was shy, joined debate, became less shy. Keep it really simple. And in fact, if you distill it into one sentence when you're in the middle of the process, it can really help you, come back to basics. Another, for that montage essay, here are the chunks. Here are the qualities the student wants to show. Curiosity, good with hands, meticulous, helping others. How does it all connect? Dentist stuff, dentist skills. For part 2, it gets a little more complicated. In other words, how to structure your essay. But I want to give you a brief little sneak peek at how to basically structure each of these. And then I'll share with you some resources so you can go deeper on this. But here's how to outline any essay in 6 minutes. You ready? And again, if you need to take a break or whatever, go for it. I'm just going to keep going though. So how do you connect your challenges, if you've been through some, to what you want to study in the future? Your future career. Here's what I think the secret is. Your values. Did you notice in that other essay, she talked about developing critical thinking skills and leadership and socializing. How did she develop those? By going through debate, by going through all of these challenges. How will they serve her? Once she names her career, it becomes pretty clear. If you look at that endodontist essay, you'll see that that's another one where it becomes more clear by the end of the essay. But I think the values are the glue, like the super glue that connect your past to your present and even, y'all, your future. I'm saying y'all a lot today. Okay. If, however, you've not faced challenges, really what you're trying to demonstrate if you want to talk about your career, and again, you don't have to write about challenges and you don't have to put your career in the essay. And I want to say that and emphasize that you don't have to put your essay career at the end. But if you decide that you want to, one way to do it is to reverse engineer your essay. This is kind of sneaky, by starting with the end in mind. And how might you do this? Well, with that student who wrote the endodontist essay, he came into my office and he was like, man, I don't know what I want to write about. And I was like, you've been through challenges? He's like, nope. I was like, you know what you want to do? He's like, yep, I want to be an endodontist. And I was like, endo what? He's like, basically it's a dentist. And I was like, cool, let's write it on the board. So we wrote it on this whiteboard. And then we brainstormed qualities of a great endodontist. And he named a few: being detail focused, wanting to help others. And then I asked him, I kind of tricked him. I was like, okay, do you have these qualities? And he's like, kind of. I was like, give me an example of each of these. And so we brainstormed an example for each of these qualities of a great endodontist. And this is what turned into his essay eventually. And again, you can Google that to check it out. You can do this too. Just make those 2 columns. Qualities of a great endodontist, and then how you've demonstrated them. Make sure that the how I've demonstrated are visual examples and really specific. Show, don't tell. The tell is going to be the qualities. In other words, in the right column. The show is going to be your specific examples. See? Random zoom in. If you face challenges, but you're not sure what you want to study, then how do you end your essay? I think it's with your values. In other words, give us a sense of what's going to be important to you, no matter what career you go into. I think this structure is a great one to go by, because sometimes students worry that, my challenge is it's going to be a sob story or it's going on too long. Then just squish them up into the first quarter or first third of the essay. 1, what challenges did you face? 2, what'd you do about it? 3, what'd you learn? You don't get into college because your parents got divorced or because you broke your kneecap. Colleges want to know, how did you metabolize the experience? I said metabolized, I meant metabolize. How did you work through it? What'd you do about it? What active steps did you take to get your needs met? One of the things I'm really big on is helping students identify their core needs and creative ways that, how did you get those met? I don't have time to talk about that right now, but if you, I'll share a resource on that in a little bit. Sorry, I know I'm kind of like, here's another resource, but I'm kind of a resource junkie, if you couldn't tell. If you've not faced challenges and don't know what you want to study, what do? How do you find some stuff? Here are 3 options. First, you can find a placeholder using Do What You Are. In other words, you go through this book, take the personality assessment, and then pick a career that sounds kind of interesting. Type it in on ONET Online into the top right corner. Do the occupation quick search. It'll give you a huge old list. So you click one of the occupations. It'll give you a huge list of skills you would need to possess in order to be great in that career. And then do that thing that I said, in terms of making a type B essay outline. In other words, reverse engineer your essay by giving specific examples that you develop those skills. Ultimately, you could say, maybe I'll pursue this career at the end, but you don't have to. You can just use that as a way of demonstrating specific values and skills and qualities that you've developed. It'll give you lots to say about your life and, what you're bringing to a college campus. Another option would be just to find, first of all, make that big list of all the stuff that you want to show the college with the resources that I mentioned in the first part of this. And then you got to find something to connect them. So you can Google the scrapbook essay and find a student who had all of these random, beautiful qualities. How did she connect them? Through the scrapbook of her life, where each image represents a different, unique quality. Different and unique, that's redundant. A different quality. Another student really loved cupcakes. She had so much to say about cupcakes, and every detail that she came to me with had something cupcake related. So I was like, let's write the cupcake essay. And she wrote this beautiful essay with 24 cupcake related details that showed all these different parts of who she was. Another student, as you'll see on this page, if you Google the travel and languages essay, travel and language are the common themes. So what you need is something that you know really well and love, and that could potentially connect to lots of different parts of you. What do I mean by parts? The different values, skills, basically the stuff you want to show at college. Finally, if you're really stuck, and you're not yet because it's not right, and you've got some months before your essays due, but you can just decide on all the qualities, give an example of each, and then at the end, share your values. All right. How do you bring your essay to life? Let me give you 2 quick tips for making your essay not boring. And the way I want to frame this is I've gotten a lot of mediocre writing advice in my life because I've been through a lot of writing classes and, studied it in college. And I took pretty good college, writing courses. But here's some mediocre advice that's out there in the world, made better, I hope. So maybe you hear this, choose a great opening, Yeah, great, right? Choose a hook. Like we hear that all the time. That's fine. I think this is better advice. I think it's really good to begin with a question or a problem that must be solved. And it doesn't have to be a literal question. Let me show you what I mean. This is from the Porcelain God essay, which you, again, can Google. I'll stop saying that. Just assume that everything is Googleable. Bowing down to the porcelain god, I emptied the contents of my stomach. Foaming at the mouth, I was ready to pass out. My body couldn't stop shaking as I gasped for air and the room started spinning. Okay, I'm reading this. I'm like, OMG, what's happening? Why is she throwing up? Is she going to die? I'm in, right? This is a hook, but she's starting with a problem. The problem of throwing up. It becomes a bigger problem when we find out that she was in anaphylactic shock and was deathly allergic to peanuts. Now, how that turns out, you'll have to read the rest of the essay. Here's another example. Here's a secret no one in my family knows. I shot my brother when I was 6. Luckily, it was a BB gun. But to this day, my older brother, Jonathan, doesn't know who shot him. And I finally promised myself to confess this 11-year-old secret to him after I write this essay. Okay, my mind is exploding with questions. Why did he shoot his brother? Did he hurt him? Did his brother deserve it? Is he going to tell him? If he tells him, what's going to happen? Okay, so what's great about this is that he actually asks a question at the beginning. He answers or poses a question. He shot his brother. Did his brother die? He answers, it was a BB gun. Okay, his brother didn't die, but he raises all these other questions for us. So these are examples of questions, and you can think of this like a movie, right? Any movie that you watch asks the viewer a question at the start. Every romantic comedy is like, will they end up together? Or if it's sort of like someone down on their luck, like, what's going to happen? How is he going to, so he got fired from his job and he lost his house, and like, what's going to happen? Will he choose the blue pill or the red pill? What is the Matrix? What does it even mean? Will we ever find out? Will we ever know? And maybe not. And some great films even end with a great question, like Inception. What's going to happen? Will the coin stop spinning or not? Here's another tip, and this is another mediocre piece of advice: write what you know. Now, what does that even mean? Write what you know. This has always kind of put me in like a existential tailspin. What do I know? I don't know what I know. I say use geeky language. Now, geeky language looks like this. I'm the math geek who marvels at the fundamental theorems of calculus, or who sees beauty in A equals whatever that says. Again, it's in the details. One bracket off, or one digit missing, and the whole equation collapses. And details are more than details. They can mean the difference between negative and positive infinity, an impossible range of solutions. Now, geeky language is like the evidence that you know some stuff about some stuff, right? And some of you on this call know some stuff about some stuff. You can sprinkle a little jargon in to show that you've got some higher level knowledge. Don't go crazy with it, right? Because then you'll seem like you're just showing off. And that actually will have the opposite effect. I think that a little jargon can like magnetize, like draw the reader towards us. Ooh, be curious. What else does he know about? But if we put too much, I find that to be off-putting. So it's like too much. I don't know. It's like the magnet flips and suddenly we're like, I don't want to know this person. That's all he talks about. So a little bit of geeky language will give evidence of what you know. Okay. What have we talked about so far? I've given some resources, 7. Actually, if you count those 100 brave and interesting questions, 107 resources, ways to find out what to write about, including the objects and values exercises, which are my favorite. How do I structure my essay? I gave 2 possible structures: narrative, this led to this, led to that. Montage, here's all this random stuff, and here's how it all connects. What does a great essay look like? We talked about the with debate essay. That's an example of the narrative structure. How do I structure it? I gave the 6-minute version of how to write any type of essay. I hope now you are so clearly mapped out on your essay that you're good to go. I'm kidding. How do I make my essay like not boring? Either begin with a problem or question that can keep us engaged, and geeky language can kind of draw us in a little bit. All right. If you want more resources, if you're feeling like you totally don't have your essay mapped out yet, join the club on this call or on this webinar. I've got this cool website and I've spent a lot of time on it and I'm proud of it. So I want to show it to you really quick. I just want to navigate to a couple of cool things. So let me unshare my screen and then reshare my, let's see, what do we call it? My other screen, basically. So give me just 1 second. Thanks for your patience. We're almost done here. Actually, we're almost to the Q&A. Is the screen that I want. Little home. Free resources. That's what you want to check out. Look at this. It just goes on and on. The personal statement one. So if you click personal statement resources, that's the main essay we've been talking about. And you scroll down, go to the essay workshop in a box, the free guide to writing your personal statement. Click that. There will be this little opt-in thing where you type your name and your email, get the guide, and you'll get access to this, basically a 3-hour workshop with me, which is pretty cool. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. If you're applying to the UC, the University of California schools, there's another one. Oh, here's my 100 brave and interesting questions. Voila. So that goes on and on. What else do I want to show you? I want to show you the Matchlighters, Scholarship. Check it out. This is for students who identify as low income. It's pretty easy to apply. Look at that. You're already accepted. Boom. Like I said, we've got a ton of, it says 50 slots available. I think we've got a few more because I had a ton of counselors apply. So you can apply now just by clicking that button. And voila. What else do I want to show you? But I've got some, I mentioned the Pay What You Can courses. Here are those. If you click live courses, live events. So I've got this like a 1-week personal statement boot camp that you can check out. That's happening in late July. I've also got the supplemental essays course, which is happening after that, which is how to write the Why Us essay and all the others that you need to write to complete your application, and the UC course. And here, let me show you the coolest thing about this. When you get into this, and it says 1-week personal statement boot camp, you'll see that there are 2 options. One is to take the live option, which is like, taking it with me in July and like walking through the steps, and I'll give you like one-on-one feedback on your essays and stuff. And here are the, the different days, how to find your topic, how to write each of the 4 essay types. Basically, I go in really into depth. But here's the cool part. When you go to take the live course, watch this. I mentioned that everything is pay what you can. Whoops, sorry, I clicked the wrong link. Sorry, let me go back. There it is. The live course, pay what you can. Click pay what you can. Type name, whatever it is, your email, whether you're a counselor or student, and then you can pick your own price. Or check it out. You can click other and type in whatever you want. So that's something that I'm really proud of and really excited to share with you. So what else? One more thing I want to show you. Ooh, check this out. On the main page, whoops, that's not the about, that's not what I want to show you. I want to show you my Tumblr. So this is kind of geeky, but I don't know if you're on Tumblr or not, but if you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see all the Tumblr you can handle. So all my resources just keep going on and on forever. So this is a way to get like quick shot of inspiration if you need it. And then here's info on the podcast. Anyway, you can check it out. I'll stop. Let's come back to the webinar. Almost done with the presentation. I've got like 3 more slides. All right, here, let's see. Okay, it's this one. There we go. I showed you around the place. Do you have questions? If so, here's my email, info@collegeessayguy.com. Welcome to Q&A time. Oh, wait, that's the 119th resource, me. So this is Q&A time. So essentially, what is your question? Let's open it up here we got at least 10 minutes. I'd be curious to know what you're excited about, what you want to know about. So let's hear it. What questions do you have related to the college essay? I see my brother typing as me, disable the chat because there was so much Warriors talk. Warriors versus Cavs talk. That's funny. Awesome. Ooh, great question. How deep is too deep to go in an essay? So I would say in terms of what you're writing about, go for it. Like when you're brainstorming and you're trying to find your topic, I'd say go for it. By go for it, I mean like don't worry about oversharing when you're doing your first draft, because the deeper you go, the more there will be to like focus on. So yeah, I would say go for it. So essentially, go and I would say ultimately once you finish it, 1/3 will be on the challenge, 1/3 what you did about it, and 1/3 what you learned. Keep in mind that you don't have to go completely into the all the details of whatever the challenge was. So feel free to share some details of it, but again, not getting into all the nitty-gritty details. Let me take a look at some of the other questions. Let's see. Let's see, 1 second. How long should the essay be? Zach, I answered that at the beginning, 650. Do I have advice for people who hate writing? Yeah, Alyssa, we all love storytelling. I mean, like just telling a story to somebody. I would say take out the voice memo feature on your phone and just start telling your story, or start just randomly riffing and then listen to what you wrote and then type it down. That's a great way to just get past writer's block. Another thing is when you do this essence objects exercise or values, you'll start to connect to some stuff that actually is pretty creative and pretty interesting. So I'd really advise you to check that out. What topics should you not write about? There aren't many that are I think, too crazy. I mean, you can make almost anything work, but it just ends up being a higher degree of difficulty. In other words, let's say you write about, domestic abuse. Many students have written about domestic abuse. The question is, what did you do about it? What did you learn from the experience? And who did you become as a result? So I'm not saying that that's your particular challenge, but it's really about how you handled it and what you did about it. Nick says, what's your advice to people who struggle with going over the character limit? Don't worry about it, Nick. Don't worry about it for the first few drafts. Just tell the story. Sometimes students freak out and they like worry about, I need to keep it to 650 words in the first draft, but you need to get the whole story out. So just go, and you can revise later. If you need to revise and you're already a few drafts in, Google 5 steps to revising your essay, College Essay Guy, and there's a revising exercise that'll help you get down from whatever wherever you're at to 650 words. Do challenges have to be life-changing, e.g. divorce? Tomoki's asking. I think they're more interesting if they are, but I don't know. I guess it would depend, Tomoki, on what the challenge was. Sometimes the challenges are smaller, but if it is, it's not that you can't write about it. It's just that I think the insight needs to be more insightful. So let's say the challenge was something like, getting up in the morning. Probably not a great challenge, not a very inspiring one. The challenge was, let me think of something. Let's see. I'm trying to think of, I wouldn't advise writing about like particular grades in school, but I'm trying to think of a small challenge. A small challenge might be something like repairing a relationship. I don't know. Sometimes the challenges can be too mundane. So I guess Tomoki had asked, what challenge are you thinking of? That would probably help me answer your question. Elena says, my guidance counselor told me the essay should be about an event that occurred in high school, but is it okay to write about an incredible accomplishment from middle school? I wouldn't focus on that, Elena. I would say make that a paragraph in your essay, but then I'd be curious to know, so what? Like, what did you do about it? Like, how have you built on that since middle school? So I would agree with your guidance counselor there. Jacob asks, how much time should be put into the personal statement? I would say a great personal statement is like 10 drafts. The essay that you read, the with debate essay, was at least 12. I think you should spend at least 20 hours on it because I think that's what it takes to make a great one. Not every student is going to want to do that, and that's why not every essay is great. But I'd say if you really want to make a great one, that's how to do that. Ivy, how do you make an essay funny? I guess my question to you, Ivy, would be, are you funny? If so, write like you talk and be funny. But there's no general way to be funny. So there's no like, how to. Yeah, I would say read some sample essays and decide, and then ask yourself what's going on in this essay. How actually one way to do it is just by pointing out irony. There's a great essay called "Terrorism, Barbie and the Terrorism and the Patriarchy." That's in my book. Sorry, that was not for free online. I didn't mean to like plug my book because it's not pay what you can. But there's some great humor in that one. Caleb asks, how much geeky language is too much? I'd say, Caleb, just read it aloud to somebody, read the whole essay and ask them at the end, did you feel like it was too jargony? Or you can ask this question: did you feel in that section that it was like curious and interesting and I seemed smart, or were you kind of put off by it? So like test it on a few people. Jacob's asking, what's the link to the webinar recording? Don't worry, you'll get it via email. When should you start thinking about drafting an essay? Sign up right now. And by right now, I mean on this webinar. No, I mean in between your junior and senior year, like once finals are over, I think is the perfect time to do it. And I think having a draft by the end of the summer is great. How do I feel about writing about the college application process itself? I wouldn't recommend it just because so many students have done it. So many have done it poorly and so many have done it well. So I wouldn't recommend it. And again, anything that I say, like do's and don'ts, are like not strict do's and don'ts. It's just like the degree of difficulty becomes so much higher. Which topic is more captivating, a death in the family or how one article changed an entire community? Cool. And I think, well, what's more unusual, I would say, is that one article changed an entire community, but it depends, Esther, of course, on what the impact was on you. But I'd say the second one is a little bit more unusual. What are some things to avoid in college essay or common mistakes? If you go to I wrote an article on this. If you go to the College Essay Guy website and go to other places I've been published, there are 3 do's and 3 don'ts for your college essay. How formal should I write my essay, or can I write more casual language? Cade, casual language is totally okay. If you notice that last essay we read, it was like, imagine talking to a smart friend. How would you figure out what to write about? Should your essay be funny, serious, or even some revelation? Amy, that question, I would say the answer to that is go do all the exercises, the 6 exercises that I mentioned at the start. That's how to figure out what to write about. In terms of tone, in other words, like that's how your essay should sound, funny, serious. It depends on the topic. And it depends on who you are, right? Is there such thing as cliche writing when writing these essays? For sure. Usually cliche writing, Lonnie, comes from staying too abstract and not getting specific. In other words, if you're beginning with like your essay with like, some abstract topic, like what success truly means, or you begin with a dictionary definition, that's probably a don't. Don't start your essay with a dictionary definition. Begin specifically. Use the word I. This is a personal statement. And Lonnie, I would say that everyone getting similar advice, not everyone gets similar advice. But people do submit similar essays. And oftentimes it's because the language is abstract. Angela asks, is a sob story too off-putting for a college essay? Depends on the sob story. If you Google how to write about challenges without making it a sob story, you'll see a little blog post that I wrote on that. How many times would you revise your essay before you just hand it in? Manu, I'd say about 10. Sonia asks, sorry, I'm going fast through these. We got a bunch of questions. What are main topics to expect for a college essay in Common App or separate schools? If you just Google Common App prompts, Sonia, you'll find those topics. How much time should I spend on the personal statement? I answered that. Do comedy stories ever work well for essays? Yeah, for sure they do. Let's see. What are some cliches to avoid? Okay, I sort of talked about this, but some cliches are like the mission trip essay, sports essays. Not to say you don't write about those, but it just becomes a bit more difficult to stand out. Can I use the same personal essay for each college I apply to? Zach, you'll need to look on the Common App to make sure that the school is on the Common App. But if it is, you will be able to use it. Or some schools use the Coalition app. But some schools won't. So you'll just need to go to their individual website to check it out. So we're at time, but I'll spend just a few more minutes answering a few more questions. Thanks for hosting this webinar. You're welcome, Caitlin. As you were applying to college in your younger years, what's one thing you wish you knew and the one mistake you regret with writing these essays? Caitlin, I honestly wished I hadn't waited to the last minute because I totally did. I think I could have written a much better essay. What I wrote was pretty good, but I was the one writing it the night before, even though I tell my students not to do that. How do I know if I've faced challenges? Lauren, it's just sort of a personal thing. No one can tell you that other than you, right? Here's my truth belief, though, is that we've all faced challenges. We've all been through something. It's up to you to decide if you feel like that something is worth telling, like writing in a personal statement. Are college essays shared with anyone else besides the college? Not unless you want to, Paula. But no, when you send it to a college, it's private. How many drafts do I recommend? About 10. Let's see, what else? Oftentimes we hear teachers tell us to refer to a very specific moment in time. Would this be a good place to do that? Megan, I think it's hard to do that. I think it's hard to like focus on something, basically, because I think that what that relies on, if you talk about a very specific moment, it relies on an incredible insight to show us why this was the moment that changed your life. So I think that's super hard to do. So I wouldn't personally recommend that. In the future, I'm going to do a webinar on why I think that's not great advice. I think it's better to focus on a series of moments, like in the With Debate essay that changed your life. But that's just a personal preference because I think that's easier to do, honestly. Or to use the montage and jump around in space and time. I wrote a personal statement already, but I didn't write about my future career. Do we have to write about that? No, Angelica. And I said that a few times, but it's funny. Every time no matter how many times I say that, I think it's because I put up that quadrant, which is a false dichotomy, guys. In other words, these aren't the only two options, challenges or career. You don't have to write about either of those. It's just different ways of getting to an essay topic. Can I get into BU with an 1150, 3.6 and a good essay? Christina, I'd have to, who knows? It's really dependent on a lot of different factors. And I wouldn't be able to just quick scan tell you. How many colleges should you apply to? I'd say 8 to 10. And if you Google how to create a great college list, you'll see a podcast that I created on that and a resource. Curlin says, you said not to write about a broken kneecap. I didn't say that. And I just think that the sports injury essay is one that they'll have seen before. And so I think that it gets a little bit harder to stand out. But I don't think it's lame. I think it's possible. What should I do if I want to write about something? Keep in mind, I have to turn my rough draft into my English teacher in the fall, but I don't know if they'll appreciate its meaning to me. I don't know, Kayla. You're not writing for your English teacher, right? It's like, I'd say go for it. Like write about what you're passionate about because that's what's going to be the most energy. But having said that, it is important to get advice from somebody. So if you spend hours and hours and hours on something and you're going down a path that might ultimately not be the most productive, I don't know. I guess I would ask yourself, is your English teacher the best judge? Maybe so. Maybe your English teacher has lots of experience with admissions essays. But I think that sometimes, and I don't know your English teacher, sometimes an English teacher has a certain preference, a way it should look, and admissions officers have another idea about what it looks like. So I'd make sure that you get some advice and some input on your topic from somebody who's got a lot of experience in the college admissions world. All right, 2 more questions. Sorry, I know we've got a bunch more, but we've got to end this at some point. What are some resources for getting help with the college essay? Jody, collegeessayguy.com. You said, let's see, some of the questions are repeating. Let's do one more question. How do you make your essay stand out? See above, watch earlier in Angela, you might have joined late. Go to earlier in the webinar. And let's see if there's one more question. I'm just kind of skimming through these. Ooh, this is a great question. What if you haven't overcome your challenge and you're still at the status quo stage? Isabella, ask yourself, do I have time and resources and energy to work through this summer and this fall? I would encourage you to start writing about it just for your own personal growth and development and potentially healing. And ask yourself, what could I do? There's an exercise you can Google called the Feelings and Needs exercise that will help you develop a to-do list for your summer and your fall. So anybody who's currently in your challenge, I encourage you to start writing about it because it'll be something that could change your life. This process, y'all, can change your life, and it'll give you a cool set of action items for the summer and fall. All right, y'all. I must run because I'm on baby duty for the next hour, so I have to go be with my daughter. But thank you. If you've got any questions, you can email info@collegeessayguy.com. Thanks to CollegeXpress, to Megan and all the amazing humans over there, and best of luck.